Howdy, folks. Now, time to continue on to part two to Zaid Magenta's video. I unfortunately have a hard time remembering names, and so Zaid, whatever your new name is, I apologize for not remembering it. I'll remember it next time, I promise. But anyway, this is part two. We have left Earth. Now you're going to show what your thoughts about Mars and Liara and her uselessness, her worthlessness as the Shadow Broker, and of course one of the biggest, stupidest plot twists, and not to mention one of the earliest plot twists around. But before I go into that, please hit the like button and subscribe, and help my channel grow. I'm desperate for my channel to see some growth for a change. And in sadder news, the third actor I was raised with has died this year in the last couple of months. Val Kilmer, if you're wondering, may he rest in peace. I remember him as the voice of Moses in that musical film that I didn't really care for. I admit the cartoon was not as good as the live action with Charlton Heston, but Val Kilmer, you were pretty decent as Moses in The Prince of Egypt. But as the voice of God, not so much. I will watch Batman Forever for the first time soon. People hate it, but I want to honor your memory. I loved you as Iceman, and I especially loved you in Tombstone when you were playing as Doc Holliday with the tuberculosis and everything. Quite talented you were. And anyway, yeah, may you rest in peace. God rest your soul. Now, 4 days ago, we lost Richard Chamberlain, the king of TV-made movies in the 70s and 80s. Also sad. And last month, or maybe it was 2 months ago, I think it was just last month, Gene Hackman. I loved Gene Hackman. I had lots of movies of him when I was little. But yeah, he, his wife, and their dog all found dead together at home. What happened? I have no idea. Carbon monoxide poisoning, perhaps? I don't know. The police said there's no evidence of foul play, so I'm stumped. You get used to people and you don't think we'll ever lose them, and then suddenly we lose them. Like earlier, there was Bernard Hill, and then before him last year, there was James Earl Jones. Everyone I grew up with is dying, and it makes me feel alone when it comes to watching movies and knowing that this actor recently died. Anyway, on to the video.
Upon leaving Earth, we receive a message from Admiral Hackett, telling us how Liara found the blueprints for a Prothean superweapon capable of destroying the Reapers. Okay, back up. What do you mean she found blueprints for a Reaper-destroying superweapon? The Alliance has known about these archives for years, decades, and in all that time they never found these blueprints? I'd say this is an example of plot convenience, but that's actually an insult to plot convenience. There is no way in hell that the Alliance knew about these archives for decades and never found out about these blueprints before now. But now when the Reapers are attacking, suddenly Liara just happens to come across them. This superweapon was never foreshadowed or built up at any point in either of the previous games. It's far too convenient that we're only now finding out about this.
The timing is indeed the timing is indeed rather suspicious. I do hate it when the solution is found within minutes of the apocalypse happening. The way I would have handled it, the way I would have justified Liara being able to find the information so quickly, or at least, so last minute, is if she took Edie and had the AI scan the countless terabytes of data, or is it not gigabytes? Yeah, terabytes. What's bigger than terabytes? Well, anyway, I figure an AI scanning through the data for 6 months would be able to find the superweapon much faster than Liara all by herself. And she's doing that as an archaeologist, not as a shadow broker, so it's even less plausible that she'd be able to find it. And you might be wondering, what is Edie doing in Mars? Well, in my head canon, as you probably already know, Andromeda never happens. The whole Andromeda shtick was complete BS. It retcons everything that was established in the second game for why the Alliance never rebuilt its fleets. Or the Council, if you sacrifice the previous Council. Instead, The Tempest is out and about. Alec, after the Reaper base is destroyed, after the Collector base is destroyed, Alec Ryder contacts Shepard, Richard Shepard, and his sister Natalie Shepard, and they go rescue his children on the Tempest. Unfortunately, his children don't make it alive, and so do several other characters that I don't really like on the Tempest. But the Tempest is badly damaged, and so is the SR-2. By the surviving, there is a second Collector ship out there. And I don't remember if James Vega destroyed it in the comic books or not, but I'll pretend James Vega and his friends are there as well. And in that planned fanfiction story of mine. And Veyron. Veyron will be my ghostwriter. Well, anyway, the point is, the ship is way too damaged to continue operating, so the Tempest and the Normandy are taken to Earth, where they're both dismantled and reforged together to form a bigger ship, the Normandy SR-3, and the Tempest is written off as completely destroyed. And the remaining crew is integrated in the ship. So Edie, not being part of the ship because the Normandy's been written off as destroyed, Liara takes her to Mars, and they scan the Mars archives together, and that's how they're able to find the data. But anyway, sorry about that long tangent. Hope you found it interesting. Please do let me know in the comments below. Thank you.
So, how exactly did Liara find these blueprints?
We've known about the archives for decades. Why now?
Process of elimination, mixed with a little desperation.
Bullshit! There is no way that you stumbled upon these blueprints out of desperation.
I may not know much about oh man, I blew it. I botched it. But then again, this is not scripted, so you'll have to forgive me. I may not know much about nuclear reactors, but I know a lot about concrete. And yeah, that was basically one of the most brilliant lines of Chernobyl. And Zaid, if you're watching this, please watch and review that show. Thank you. And anyway, a clever way of saying I may not know much about the science stuff behind nuclear physics, but my bullshit detector is second to none, and you two politicians are bullshitting me.
Nation mixed with a little desperation.
Bullshit.
There it is.
There is no way that you stumbled upon these blueprints out of desperation. If the completion of this thing was so important, why were plans for it never stored inside any of the Prothean beacons? Why wasn't it stored inside Vigil? You're telling me that this device that countless species have been adding to was never discovered by anyone? Not even the Reapers obtained this knowledge from the civilizations they harvested? Okay, this is just an interlude, but a long time ago I remember reading this Game Informer magazine where Casey Hudson was being interviewed. In this interview he said we'd have to think of a plan to stop the Reapers, and that we wouldn't just come across some long-lost Reaper off button. And here we are, coming across a long-lost Reaper off button. Yeah, Casey just flat out lied to people.
I don't appreciate being lied to, let alone by game developers giving me promises. I mean, I got enough of those from Peter Molyneux when he kept breaking promise after promise with the Fable games. I'm glad he's no longer making Fable games. But of course, I'm pretty sure Fable's going to get screwed up in another way very soon. It's too bad that I can no longer contact Lionhead Studios to get them to correct themselves, but who knows. It's also because, Lionhead Studios no longer exists, so somebody else is making the new Fable reboot games. Although the trailer made me want to vomit, so I'm not holding my breath. Anyway, Zaid, I'm glad that you also read TV tropes. Not enough people do. Every time I try to communicate with people and explain to them the difference between a Watsonian and a Doyleist, they don't know what I'm talking about because they don't read TV tropes. I am a Doyleist, so I blame BioWare and not the Alliance for why the ship is a complete mess. And yeah, Vigil of all people should have known about the Crucible, so it's disgusting.
How does the introduction of the Crucible in any way make the story better? Seriously, I want an answer. Why should I believe that this Crucible wasn't something they just pulled out of their ass? Maybe this would have worked if we did.
It definitely feels like it's something they pull out of their ass. I remember thinking that when I first played.
Was something they just pulled out of their ass. Maybe this would have worked if we discovered the Crucible in Mass Effect 2, the game that should have been about looking for a way to stop the Reapers. On some level I might have been willing to believe the presence of the Crucible if they did a better job building it up, but they don't. They just randomly throw it at us completely out of left field.
Most people who bash Mass Effect 2, they seem to pin the problems of Mass Effect 3 on Mass Effect 2. I disagree. Mass Effect 2 does feel like it deviates away from the main plot, but that's only because Mass Effect 3 made it irrelevant, and Mass Effect 3 took it into account better than that. Mass Effect 2 would not have felt disconnected, feeling like a deviation between the path of Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 3. Personally, I think Mass Effect 3, the Reaper War, should have been over 2 games instead of being crammed into 1. Especially considering the fact that the Reapers are only taking up less than, about 40% of the main campaign, even though all the marketing is about the Reapers. And what was BioWare thinking shaping the Crucible like that? That looks suspiciously like either a microphone or a particular type of toy that I cannot mention on YouTube that is also shaped a bit like a microphone, only with different coloring. But anyway.
Some level I might have been willing to believe the presence of the Crucible if they did a better job building it up, but they don't. They just randomly throw it at us completely out of left field.
Oh, and I will say it again. I've said it a million times before, and I'll say it again. The collectors, while the collectors may be written off as all dead, I still think the Black Arcs should have been taken into account like they were in multiplayer. I think that they should have been part of the main campaign. But even if the collectors were all destroyed, the Abominations and Scions and Praetorians were all created using Reaper technology, and thus they should have been part of the third game, along with Reaper Possession, assuming direct control.
And now, the entire plot revolves around the construction of this stupid thing. And even then, this doesn't even make sense on a tactical level. Why are we suddenly putting all of our faith in this random machine that countless civilizations before this one failed to complete when we don't even know what it does or how it works? Do we even have any reassurance that it'll actually work? Throughout the game, everyone talks like they don't even know what it's going to do when it's finished. On top of that, the idea of completing the Crucible in their current situation is completely ridiculous. They said specifically that the Crucible is a construct of countless civilizations that came before. Something going back millions and millions of years, and none of them ever finished it. So why are we supposed to believe that we have a shot at it? Maybe it wouldn't be so ridiculous if it wasn't for the fact that the game ends with the Crucible being completed 100%.
And the Crucible?
Ready, except for the catalyst. But there's no...
I remember when I played Mass Effect 3 for the first time, back in 2012, I was so afraid that the Crucible might not be ready because I don't know how many resources I had to collect. I breathed a huge sigh of relief that I made it past the required amount. But then when I found out that this exact cutscene will play out regardless of how many resources I have, I was flabbergasted and disappointed, and of course this was the millionth time I felt disappointment while playing Mass Effect 3, and so, yep, to this day I have feelings of hatred toward the third game.
But there's no way to hide the ships we'll be sending at Cerberus.
You're going to be launching an attack against Cerberus, and somehow the Reapers are going to take notice? I don't get it. They're on completely different sides of the galaxy, if I remember correctly. So, yeah.
This has got to be some kind of joke. Millions and millions of years of previous civilizations failing to build this thing, and now all of a sudden these guys managed to magically put it together in the span of a few months. And it's not like the Crucible was like 95% complete when the humans, Asari, Turians, and so forth started working on it. No, they show you that it's only half done. Oh, but don't worry, they do take the time to explain how they're building it so quickly, in the stupidest way possible.
How's your progress on the Crucible?
Good. Our estimates suggest we've completed nearly 50% of the known work.
So quickly?
Once decoded, the schematics are designed in such a way that allows our scientists to easily translate the information. It's not Prothean specific.
Yeah, never mind the fact those languages are from civilizations millions and millions of years older than even the Prothean Empire. Keep in mind, Shepard needed the Prothean beacon to even understand their language, and the only reason other squadmates were able to understand Vigil was because he was able to program his communication so they can understand him. These assholes should not have a means to understand the languages of thousands of civilizations lost to time. Unless they came across some kind of beacon or long-lost AI for all these other races, which I highly doubt, this is a bullshit attempt by the writers trying trying to cover their ass. And it's not like it's something you can avoid if you do a poor job getting resources. Regardless of your readiness rating, the Crucible will always be complete. You'll always get the same cutscenes of the Crucible being plugged into the Citadel, and it looks exactly the same no matter how many assets you get.
It really did piss me off. I remember feeling pissed off when I found out, we can't defeat them that we cannot defeat the Reapers conventionally, that we have to rely on this machine that got pulled out of nowhere. I remember feeling so hyped up after the second game because, hey, the Reapers are coming. We're not very well prepared because the idiot politicians kept us in the dark. Maybe they have a hidden army that we've been building in secret and have been keeping it secret from the civilian population. I don't know. It would have been awesome if the last 3 years had been spent undergoing a wartime economy so that we can focus on building ships. We could have built 1,000 dreadnoughts with the resources that were used to build the Diet Citadel. And of course, equipped them all with the Thanix cannons, none of which make an appearance in the third game, even though the second game clearly stated that all dreadnoughts were being retrofitted with those new cannons. You can fit 2 on a small ship like the Normandy. You could probably fit a dozen of them on a dreadnought. Instead of taking 4 dreadnoughts to take down 1 Reaper, you can now do it with 2 dreadnoughts, maybe even just 1 with the Thanix cannons. I was so eager to see it, but we never see the Thanix cannon being used once in the game. And the idiot who created the Thanix missiles clearly did not know anything about the Thanix technology, because Thanix technology is supposed to be a reverse engineered copy of the laser weapon of the Reaper. How do you turn a laser weapon into a missile? That doesn't make any sense. And the Reapers lost several critical advantages that they enjoyed having in all the previous cycles. They had the element of surprise. They were able to wipe out the government, the galactic government, and all the top brass in one fell swoop by showing up out of nowhere, because the Crucible, the Citadel, is a giant mass relay. But instead, they don't have that advantage, and they don't have the advantage of shutting down the mass relays after seizing control of the Citadel. If they're so powerful, why don't they just rush into the Citadel in the first place? But they're not. The story is nonsense, which is why I appreciate people like Zaid, saying what I could not say.
So basically, the EMS that you spend the entire game trying to build up has absolutely no effect on the Crucible's completion at all. So really, there's no point in putting all this effort into getting all these assets. Why do I have to do these side quests? Why do I need to have these numbers? They mean nothing. And it really baffles me how the game is treating this discovery like it's a significant event in the story, with the absurdity of no one ever finding a trace of this thing before now. Why even have this take place on Mars? They could have easily had this happen on any other planet, at least to make the convenient discovery of the Crucible less contrived.
Absolutely agree. Isn't this picture the Leviathan DLC facility where we find the first spheres, where people are 10 years behind schedule because they think they're 10 years in the past? Because, let me know in the comments below.
With this trilogy constantly talking about how Liara is an expert on Prothean history, this could have been the moment where that element of her character had actual payoff. She could have found the Crucible in an undiscovered location, a place where the Protheans were secretly working on a weapon. It could even give her becoming the Shadow Broker a sense of purpose. She could have found this information using sources she didn't have access to before because she wasn't the Shadow Broker yet. But no, we have to have this take place on Mars because it sounds cool, even though the game does nothing with this location to justify this massive retcon. It makes the accomplishment of Liara finding the blueprints completely fabricated. She didn't find them because she's a persistent archaeologist, she only found them as a result of plot protection. The Crucible is one of the worst examples of a Deus Ex Machina I've ever seen. A lot of people like to say the Star Child at the end was the Deus Ex Machina, but the fact is, it was there right from the get-go.
Wait, what was there right from the get-go? Because the Star Child was also not foreshadowed. Like the Star Child was not foreshadowed, and neither was the Crucible. And plus, the Star Child also felt like a big retcon because the Keepers were receiving a signal from some kind of alarm clock, and once the alarm clock buzzed off, the Keepers sent out the signal, and the Reapers could get through. But it didn't happen. Instead, the signal had been altered, so the alarm clock failed to do what it was supposed to do. And if the Starbright was there all along, why didn't he override that sabotage that the Prothean scientists did? It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so you go to Mars and meet up with Liara where you work with her to get the information. In between there's some cutscenes where the Vermeer survivor questions Shepard's loyalty, and honestly it's not worth going into. You don't need a lengthy analyst to figure out that Caden or Ashley keeping up this whole can I trust you stupidity is a forced waste of time. But then we come across something that's far too convoluted to hand-wave away. It's here where we come across the elusive man, or Tim as I'll be calling him. He explains how he sent Cerberus to Mars to confiscate the blueprints for the Crucible as part of his plan to... I can't even say it with a straight face, just let him explain it.
That's what separates us, Shepard. Where you see a means to destroy, I see a way to control, to dominate and harness the Reaper's power. Imagine how strong humanity would be if we controlled them.
Are you kidding me? Is this like some sort of elaborate joke? There is no way they meant for us to take this seriously. Tim, whose main goal was to assure human dominance in the galaxy, thinks that he can control the Reapers to make humanity stronger, in spite of wanting them destroyed in the previous game.
I immediately felt an extra heavy dose of hatred for the game when I first played it, when this happened, because I was thinking to myself, hey, Tim, you're finally here. Maybe you can tell your men to stand down so we can work together. I mean, come on, I'm Commander Shepard. I'm your buddy, remember? But no, instead, Shepard, with his auto-dialogue, makes it clear that he not only hates Cerberus and wants to destroy them all, but Tim says the same thing back at him, and, we never liked each other. It's like our alliance never happened. I don't care. I mean, I do care. I don't approve of what Cerberus does. They're no better. They're like the space Nazis in a way. However, if going back to World War II, if aliens who were hell-bent on destroying all humans suddenly invaded Earth, you can bet that the Nazis and the Western Allies and the Communists would all put their differences aside to fight off this extraterrestrial enemy that is trying to kill us all. An enemy that is far more powerful than all of us. Than any of us. And, the Reapers are finally here. And Cerberus, we must forgive Cerberus, or at least temporarily look past their crimes so that we can work together. But no, BioWare with its new team of writers decided to screw the pooch by turning this into a three-way war.
Why? Why is he doing this? What does he think he'll accomplish by controlling the Reapers? Why does he even think he's capable of doing it? He doesn't have any means of overpowering them, he doesn't have any more knowledge of them than Shepard does, and he doesn't even have enough numbers to support him. There is absolutely zero reason for him to think that controlling the Reapers is a possible option. And I know a lot of people are gonna bring up how Tim was indoctrinated to explain a lot of stupid shit
Yeah, that honestly feels like a cop-out, and the brown-nosers always try to say, read the comics. And I know there are comics that existed before Mass Effect 3 that showed him getting indoctrinated by the Reapers. However, the gamers who don't read the comics should not be forced to rely on a second-hand source. It should be stated outright that Tim is indoctrinated the whole time, but no, they don't do that. And of course, the brown-nosers who didn't read the comics, or maybe they have, but they keep trying to point at the glowy eyes. So what if he has glowy eyes? Glowy eyes are not proof of indoctrination. I mean, if you're renegade enough, you can give Shepard glowy red eyes as well. That's just proof of cybernetics. That's not proof of indoctrination. For all I know, Tim lost his eyes somewhat time in the past and had to have them replaced with mechanical eyes. Not proof of indoctrination at all. Felt like such a huge cop-out to justify why they took an interesting organization and an interesting character and, as Zaid will explain,
does in this game, but that's just shitty writing. Tim wasn't given enough numbers to support him. There is absolutely zero reason for him to think that controlling the Reapers is a possible option. And I know a lot of people are gonna bring up how Tim was indoctrinated to explain a lot of stupid shit he does in this game, but that's just shitty writing. Tim was extremely smart and knew about indoctrination. He wouldn't have gone anywhere near the Reaper technology personally, so why would he expose himself to it knowing the risks? What does he think he'll gain from this? Why does he suddenly think he can easily control thousands of billion-year-old kilometer monstrosities who are beyond our understanding? Can I just take a moment to talk about how badly they ruined Tim in this game? Seriously, why is he like this? Why did they devolve him into such a brainless moron? In Mass Effect 2, Tim was a morally questionable but interesting party. He was idealistic in a way that made sense given his motivation. He was resourceful, and saw the value in cooperating with other groups as a means to forward his own goals. But here, he just views everyone as his enemy regardless of who they are. Instead of teaming up with Shepard like last time or using his charm to convince others to be an asset for him, he just tries to kill everyone. But why would he want to do that? Tim wasn't wasteful. He understood the value of resources and assets available to him. He didn't just kill the opposition or authorize inhuman experiments, and even when he didn't like it, he knew that working with others was the best option for helping out his own goals. Now he's treating his own people like guinea pigs and pointlessly ordering the death of anyone who isn't part of Cerberus. He keeps talking about not being blinded by ideals when that's exactly what he's doing. He completely gives up on his previous goals in some single-minded pursuit for power. They took one of the most intriguing characters and just made him into a generic villain. And furthermore, why are they making Cerberus the main villain of this game? I looked it up. You have 18 missions fighting Cerberus, 11 fighting the Reapers, and 5 fighting the Geth.
So mathematically, you spend 52% of the campaign fighting the Collector, fighting Cerberus. My initial calculation was 60%, but going by the numbers alone, that's only 52%. But still, it feels like it's 60%, given how much time, gameplay, wartime is spent fighting the Cerberus. And in all honesty, how does that in the the mission on Horizon? Yeah, Horizon's where Sanctuary is built. That mission, you're fighting both forces. It's one of the few times you can see what is effectively a three-way battle. In fact, it's probably the only one that I can remember off the top of my head. But yeah, does that qualify as a Cerberus mission or as a Reaper mission? I think it counts as more of a Cerberus one. Zaid, which one were you thinking of, Cerberus or Reaper, when it came to Horizon? Still, Cerberus really quickly outlived its welcome. The way I would have handled it, Cerberus would have been an untrustworthy but very reliable and powerful ally during the war against the Reapers. And of course, they are up to something, but we don't know what it is until the fourth game. We use up all of our resources fighting the Reapers, and we destroy them and end the cycle once and for all. Hooray! There was great rejoicing. However, the Turians, Krogan, humans, all of our fleets are either decimated, wiped out, obliterated, we're greatly weakened. And of course, I shouldn't use the word decimated, because decimated simply means 1 in every 10 got destroyed, which is definitely an understatement. So, kind of like Red Alert 2. At the end of Red Alert 2, the Soviets are defeated, and the Allies are weak, are the weak victorious ones. But then suddenly Yuri's revenge kicks in. It turns out Yuri was secretly building his own private army. Well, same thing here. I believe Cerberus should have been handled like a hidden villain that we don't see coming until the fourth game. Fourth game rolls around, and suddenly we have Cerberus with a private secret army it's been building, enhanced with Reaper technology. Well, launching a full-scale attack against the rest of the galaxy, and probably with a little help from the Leviathans, who could become good villains as well. And of course, there's also Batarians who want revenge, and I can't think of the other group. I can't remember what they were, but yeah.
Why are they making Cerberus the main villain of this game? I looked it up. You have 18 missions fighting Cerberus, 11 fighting the Reapers, and 5 fighting the Geth. You fight Cerberus more than any other faction in this game. How is this even possible? How did Cerberus turn into an independent military force in the span of a few months? They have a seemingly endless supply of resources and bases and always seem to be one step ahead of us in spite of constantly losing every time we cross paths.
Yeah, it does feel, it got annoying extremely quickly how they're always one step ahead. Every time we go there, they somehow magically there. Why is it them? Why are they always there? And how did they grow from a tiny terrorist organization to the grand army of the Republic on one man's salary? I mean, granted, Tim is supposed to be as rich as George Soros, but it still is way too far-fetched to be believable.
You fight Cerberus more than any other faction in this game. How is this even possible? How did Cerberus turn into an independent military force in the span of a few months? They have a seemingly endless supply of resources and bases and always seem to be one step ahead of us in spite of constantly losing every time we cross paths. How did Cerberus become this powerful? In spite of the Reapers being the main threat, the game treats Tim like he's the main antagonist. All of a sudden, he's treated like he's the central villain when he doesn't represent the Reapers at all. Even if you import a playthrough from Mass Effect 2 where Shepard was completely loyal to Tim, they're suddenly on opposing sides with no believable transition. Even if it's possible that Tim would believe that trying to control the Reapers is a good idea, why make Cerberus the main villain? The best thing for him to do would be to help the other species and the Alliance. Help them fight the Reapers and distract them. That would buy Cerberus time to figure out how to control them. Have it so that controlling the Reapers is a secret agenda for Cerberus while their public agenda is helping Shepard. They could be collecting resources from destroyed Reapers behind the scenes. They can do that while still working alongside the others. If they work with the other races, they'd be able to retrieve samples from battlefields and figure out how Reaper indoctrination works, then come up with a plan to use that. We can even make this into a gaming mechanic, where Cerberus asks Shepard to help retrieve Reaper samples for the reason of better understanding and how to fight them. If Shepard retrieves enough samples, then Cerberus does get close to this goal and it could be a possibility that they show up near the end offering you a viable way to control the Reapers. But no, we have to make Tim evil and put Cerberus at the forefront for the sake of the plot. This doesn't make the story more gripping. All it does is ruin Cerberus as a concept. In the previous games, they were a mysterious organization working in secret trying to forward humanity's influence in the galaxy. Here, they were turned into generic mustache-twirling villains, and their actions and motivations are not explained well enough. Why did they commit resources to attacking the Solarian and Krogan homeworlds? Were they doing it because they were indoctrinated? Were they trying to stop the genophage from being cured? Where did they get a massive army and all those ships and mechs from? Why did they attack the Citadel? So many questions with either no answer or horrible answers. And if you thought the stupidity ended there, that's not even the worst of it. Because now we go into one of the worst things about Mass Effect 3. So remember the collector base from Mass Effect 2? How the game ended with you deciding whether to destroy or reserve it? Well, that ends up meaning jack shit.
I do believe you mean preserve it, not reserve it. But yeah, you're definitely on point there. Yeah, unfortunately, destroy it or keep it. In the end, the only difference it makes is 10 points. On paper, it's a huge change. The Reaper Heart and the Reaper Brain are two different things completely. Although I gotta wonder, why was the Reaper Heart able to be harvested in the first place? I mean, come on. That I blew that place to Kingdom Come. There's no way that any part could be salvageable. But they want us to believe that they were able to salvage the Reaper Heart. Personally, I would have handled it like this. Oh man, me and my coughing. If you salvage the Reaper Heart, which is a large, super powerful power source, energy source, the Crucible, when it fires, will be much, much more powerful. 100% of the Reapers are destroyed, but the machine is so powerful that it cannot discriminate, and it cannot stop itself from destroying other synthetic species. Well, not species is the wrong word. It cannot stop itself from destroying other synthetics. So the Geth and EDI are completely destroyed as well. The Reaper Brain, on the other hand, a giant supercomputer that can solve giant problems in nanoseconds. It can process whole terabytes in nanoseconds. The Reaper Brain, if that part is installed in the Crucible, the thing is far less powerful and can only destroy 90 to 95% of the Reapers. However, it is smart enough to discriminate, and therefore it leaves the Geth and EDI alone. That's the way I would have handled it. And either way, either scenario is involving the red destroy ending. So, yeah.
Your decision regarding the base has no influence on the plot whatsoever, because no matter what you do with it, Cerberus becomes a villainous faction. The only difference between saving or destroying it is that saving it gives you a tiny bit of EMS for your readiness rating. Why is this so offensive? Because it highlights a severe problem with Mass Effect 3. None of your choices in Mass Effect 1 and 2 matter in the slightest. I mean, remember, why is this so offensive? Because it highlights
There was something. I had probably unheard amounts of data in nanoseconds.
you do with it, Cerberus becomes a villainous faction.
Oh, yeah, and Cerberus becomes a villainous faction in the first place. That reminds me. When I first played Mass Effect 2 and came to the ending, sheer honor alone demanded that I destroy the base to avenge the countless innocent people that were killed there. And of course, there was also this, as a secondary reason, was the fact that keeping it would be more trouble than it was worth. I mean, we're talking about indoctrination. That place is crawling with Reaper technology. No way is it not dangerous. We've got to destroy it to prevent indoctrination. But once the third game rolled around and it turned out Cerberus was going to be a villain no matter what, I figure I changed my mind. From now on, I keep the Cerberus base because it's the only way for the third game to make the slightest bit of sense. It's the only way for Cerberus to make sense because everything that people are worried about comes true, and so destroying the base was completely pointless.
The only difference between saving or destroying it is that saving it gives you a tiny bit of EMS for your readiness rating. Why is this so offensive? Because it highlights a severe problem with Mass Effect 3. None of your choices in Mass Effect 1 and 2 matter in the slightest. I mean, remember how your squad mates made the Collector base a big deal? All that haunting foreshadowing if you chose to give it to Tim?
Cerberus better than Collectors still wouldn't turn base over to them. Risky. More than risky. Dangerous. Hope you know what you're doing.
Can't say I like handing their assets over to the elusive man, but at least humanity is in the clear. For now, anyway.
The fight was great, Shepard, but giving Cerberus the base was weak. This man of theirs, he hides. He was smart to get you, but a real battle master charges with his clan.
My dear boy, Grunt, my dear boy, you sweet summer child, you sound like you're making a good point, and indeed, you are making a good point, but you feel, what you said feels disconnected from the Cerberus base. I mean, from the Collector base. It really does. There's something off about it. But anyway, I agree with the female Shepards, the women who played Mass Effect who wish that Grunt was a romance option. I can definitely see why. Grunt, my dear boy, is a handsome lad.
I know you're working with Cerberus, but turning over the base to them was dangerous. I hope it doesn't come back to haunt us.
I'm disquieted, Shepard. I trust you, but not the one you work for. He's driven by wrath and fear. I fear that all we've done is make him a giant.
What kind of fear does Tim have, I wonder? Answer below down in the comments.
Before we started this mission, I never would have questioned our goals. I just hope we made the right choice. I hope whatever Cerberus finds at that base is worth it.
I hope Cerberus can figure out what to do with all that tech. I also hope they don't decide to do something worse than what the Collectors were planning. Watch yourself, Shepard.
Garrus, are you threatening me? Those last two words of yours, those last three words of yours, they feel like a threat when taken out of context.
An interesting choice, Shepard Commander. The old machines offered your race what the Geth aspired to. Unity, transcendence. Now you possess the knowledge yourselves. We hope you do not use it. Your species has much potential. You should build your own future.
To this day, I must congratulate the old BioWare for how brilliantly they made Legion here be able to express facial expressions without a face. Those flaps of his, they do a superb job expressing emotion as like eyebrows. It's very funny.
I am not sure it was wise to hand that base over to the elusive man. Cerberus has a very narrow view of the galaxy.
To be fair, the rest of the galaxy sees humanity in the same way. Contrary to what the Ashley hater idiots like to think, humans are not the only racists in the galaxy. But apparently it's okay when other races do it.
Nonetheless, the choice was yours to make, and I respect that.
Fuck off!
Oh, come on, Zaid. I wanted to see Jack's real reaction because I have forgotten what it was. This whole I refuse to talk to you, fuck off thing, that only happens if you took sexual advantage of her earlier in the game. It has nothing to do with keeping the Collector base. She has a long sentence, and it's very angry. Passionately angry, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember what it was. So, yeah.
And now you're telling me the base was nothing but a red herring? What was the point of the dilemma of the Collector base if it has no influence on the plot? It was just a waste of time. Deciding whether or not to destroy the base was supposed to be a major decision that would have dire consequences, but it just doesn't. The story stays completely the same no matter what you choose. But the collector base isn't the only thing that ends up being pointless. There are so many meaningless references to Mass Effect 1 and 2 in an attempt to make Mass Effect 3 seem bigger and more important than it actually is. But it ends up falling flat on its face when you realize nothing you do holds any weight. Whatever choices you make don't actually end up making much of a difference. Kill the Rachni Queen? They just make up a second one. Save Caden on Vermeer? Give him Ashley's bitchy personality.
Hey, Ashley is not bitchy. And in defense of both her and the disconnect between Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, we got to remember, BioWare made the ultra-idiotic decision to replace all of the best writers, all of the critical writers, for the third game. You know, Mass Effect 1 and 2 were written by one team of writers, and suddenly they were all kicked out for some reason, and a new team was brought in to make the third game. Super stupid decision.
Nominate Anderson, Udina ends up taking his spot on the council. Dissuade the Quarians from going to war with the Geth? They declare war anyway. None of the choices you made have any real lasting impact. It's all superficial. Stuff like this makes Mass Effect 3 feel independent from the first two games when it's supposed to be part of a planned trilogy. That's just bad storytelling. If I didn't known any better, those statements I made earlier about Mass Effect 3 being made to draw in newcomers and casual players is starting to make a lot more sense than they should. Okay, let's just keep going. You chase Eva down, she knocks out the Vermeer survivor, you kill her, and you board the Normandy on your way to the Citadel.
Oh dear, looks like that's the end of that little part. And thankfully my microphone is, reconnected. I apparently botched, this is actually the second time I've made this video. I apparently had the microphone button deactivated without knowing it last time, so it's just silence. It was pretty weird, and I had to start all over again. Oh man. I had a blast. But anyway, drink plenty of water and watch movies of Val Kilmer. Let's honor the poor guy, and let's remember how much fun he gave us. And take care, y'all, for now.